Commander Zelter looked at the screen in front of him. The small human colony on planet Kepler 442b looked weak and easy to take. His ship moved quietly through space toward the target. The report said only 200 humans lived there. They had basic weapons and no real army. This would be simple. Zelter had conquered many worlds for the Zephyrian Empire. His soldiers were the best in the galaxy. They had special armor and powerful weapons. The humans had only been traveling in space for a short time. They were new and weak compared to his people. "Sir, we are close to the target," said Lieutenant Vexka from his control station. "The humans do not see us coming. Their defenses are very weak." Zelter smiled. His sharp teeth showed his confidence. The humans would learn today that the Zephyrian Empire was not to be challenged. This colony would become another Victorian. His long military record. The alien ships moved closer to the human settlement. Below them, the colony looked peaceful. Small buildings sat between fields of crops. Solar panels caught the morning light. Everything seemed quiet and normal. But Jake Murphy was not sleeping. The 42-year-old human sat in the colony's communication center, watching his screens carefully. He had served as a soldier on Earth before coming to this new world. When strange signals appeared on their long-range sensors 6 hours ago, Jake knew trouble was coming. "Everyone in position," Jake spoke quietly into his radio. Around the colony, 37 other people waited in hidden spots. They were farmers and teachers and engineers. But many of them had been soldiers once too. Lisa Carter crouched behind the water treatment building. She was the colony's doctor, but she also knew how to fight. Her medical bag sat next to her rifle. Today she might need both. Amy Foster lay flat on the roof of the grain storage building. She had been a sniper in Earth's army before becoming a teacher. Her scope was trained on the landing area where the alien ships would come down. Ben Rodriguez checked his weapon one more time. He had been hunting in the hills around the colony for 3 years. He knew every rock and tree. The aliens would find that this knowledge was more valuable than their advanced technology. The first Zephyrian ships landed just as the sun came up. Zelter watched from his command ship as his soldiers moved out. They wore heavy armor and carried energy weapons. Each soldier was trained to fight and kill efficiently. "Begin the attack," Zelter ordered. "Take prisoners if possible, but show no mercy to those who resist." 120 alien soldiers spread out across the colony grounds. They expected to find sleeping humans who would surrender quickly. Instead, they walked into a carefully planned trap. Jake waited until the aliens were in the middle of the colony. Then he spoke one word into his radio. Now, the quiet morning exploded into noise and fire. Hidden defenders opened fire from positions the aliens could not see. The first wave of Zephyrian soldiers fell before they understood what was happening. Amy's first shot hit an alien commander in the chest. Her second shot took down the soldier next to him. From her high position, she could see the whole battlefield. Ben fired from behind a farming machine, then quickly moved to a new position. The aliens tried to shoot back, but he was already gone. Lisa provided covering fire while treating a wounded. Colonists thought the Zephyrians had advanced weapons and armor, but the humans had something better. They knew the ground. They had prepared for this fight. Most importantly, they were fighting for their home. "What is happening down there?" Zelter demanded. His tactical display showed red marks where his soldiers were dying. "How are these primitives fighting so well?" "Sir, they are using the colony buildings for cover," Vexka reported. "They seem to know exactly where our soldiers will move." Zelter studied the battle more carefully. The humans were not running away. They were not trying to surrender. They were fighting with skill and determination that his intelligence reports had never mentioned. "Sir, we have lost 20 soldiers already," Vexka said. His voice was worried. The humans are not fighting like civilians. They fight like trained soldiers. That is impossible, Zelter growled. Our reports said they were farmers and workers. But the reports were wrong. Many of the colonists had military training. They had come to this world to build a new life. But they remembered how to fight when that life was threatened. Jake moved through the colony's underground tunnels. The colonists had built these passages to connect important buildings. Now they served as hidden routes that let defenders move. Without being seen. Delta Team, fall back to position 3, Jake said into his radio. Charlie Team, advance to the communications building. Keep them guessing where we will strike next. The aliens tried to use their superior technology to win, but the humans used tactics the aliens did not expect. They appeared from underground tunnels. They fired from hidden positions in the buildings. They coordinated their attacks perfectly. By midday, the Zephyr attack had completely failed. More than 30 alien soldiers were dead or wounded. The rest were scattered and confused. They had come expecting an easy victory and found themselves in a real war. Pull back to the landing zone, Zelter finally ordered. Regroup and prepare for a second attack. But as his soldiers retreated, Zelter began to understand something that would change everything. These humans were not primitive. They were not weak. They had turned their entire colony into a fortress. They had been ready for this attack hours before it came. The first day of what should have been a simple conquest had become a disaster. And in the back of his mind, Zelter began to wonder if his empire had made a terrible mistake by underestimating the humans. The colonists watched the aliens retreat. They had won the first battle, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The real fight was yet to come. The second day brought terror for the Zephyrian soldiers. What should have been an easy mission had become a nightmare. Their attack had failed badly, and now they were split up across strange land. The humans hunted them like wild animals. Sergeant Kairos hid behind tall alien plants with his 3 remaining soldiers. His squad had started with 12 warriors. Now only 4 were left alive. Every time they tried to move, the humans found them. Every time they thought they were safe, death came from the shadows. Movement ahead, whispered Private Zeknal. The young soldier was scared. He had never fought enemies like these humans. They did not fight fair. They used tricks and traps that made no sense. Kairos looked through his scanner, but it showed nothing dangerous. The humans somehow knew how to hide from their advanced technology. This should have been impossible, but it was happening. What Kairos did not know was that Ben Rodriguez was tracking him. Ben had been a soldier on Earth before becoming a farmer on this world. He had spent 3 years hunting in these hills. He knew every rock, every tree, every place where someone could hide. Ben spoke quietly into his radio. I can see 4 aliens. They are trying to reach the river. Jake's voice came back through the radio. Copy that, Ben. Amy and Pete are waiting. At the water crossing. Take your time and be careful. Amy Foster had moved during the night to a new position. She lay hidden in a pile of fallen logs near the river. Her sniper rifle was aimed at the narrow bridge that crossed the water. This was the only way the aliens could get across. Her husband Pete had been an engineer in Earth's army. Now he grew vegetables for the colony. But last night he had used his old skills to place explosive charges under the bridge. If the aliens tried to cross, they would get a deadly surprise. The Zephyrians moved carefully toward the water. Their sensors swept the area for threats, but they found nothing. The humans had learned long ago that the best technology was patience and local knowledge. Kairos studied the bridge through his scope. It looked safe. The other side of the river was empty. This might be their chance to escape and return to their ship. We move fast, he told his soldiers. Cross the bridge and head for the hills. Do not stop for anything. The 4 aliens ran toward the bridge. Kyleros was in front, his weapon ready. They were halfway across when Amy fired her first shot. The alien behind Kyleros fell into the river. At the same moment, Pete triggered his explosives. The bridge collapsed into the rushing water below. Kyleros and his remaining soldiers found themselves trapped on the wrong side of an impossible river. Surrender. Now, Jake's voice called from the forest. We will treat you well if you give up. Kyleros knew this was a lie. In his experience, primitive species only showed mercy when they were too weak to finish a fight. But these humans were not weak. They had just proven they could kill every alien on the planet if they wanted to. This confused Kyleros more than anything else. The humans could have killed all 4 aliens easily. Instead, they were offering to let them live. Why would they do this? What do you want from us? Kyleros called back. We want you to stop trying to destroy our home, Jake answered. We did. Not start this fight, but we will finish it if we have to. The conversation lasted for an hour. Jake explained that the humans only wanted to be left alone. They had come to this world to build a better life, not to fight wars. But they would fight if they had to protect their families. Kyleros listened and began to understand something terrible. These humans were not soldiers following orders. They were people defending their home. This made them far more dangerous than any army he had ever faced. During the long conversation, other groups of Zephyrian soldiers were having similar experiences. The humans seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. At the same time, they appeared when you least expected them and vanished when you tried to fight back. Lieutenant Vexka was trapped in the colony's industrial area with 6 soldiers. They had been trying to reach the main landing site for 12 hours, but the humans kept cutting them off. Sir, we are surrounded, one of his soldiers reported. The humans are not attacking, but they will not let us leave. This was another puzzle that hurt Vexka's brain. Why were the humans not finishing them off? They clearly had the advantage. They could have killed the trapped aliens hours ago. Answer came when a human voice spoke over their communication system. Lieutenant Vexka, this is Rick Palmer. I have been tracking your group all day. Vexka looked around wildly, trying to spot the human. Show yourself, coward. I am not hiding from you, Rick replied calmly. I am standing on the roof of the building behind you. Look up. Vexka turned and saw a human figure standing openly on the roof. The man was not even trying to take cover. He held a rifle, but it was pointed at the ground. Why have you not shot us? Vexka demanded. Because I do not need to, Rick said. You are trapped. Your friends are trapped. Your commander will soon. Understand that this fight cannot be won. Zephyrians do not surrender, Vexka replied, though his voice was not as strong as his words. I am not asking you to surrender, Rick said. I am asking you to think. Look around. Count your remaining soldiers. Ask yourself if this is worth dying for. The words hit Vexka like a physical blow. He had started this mission with 24 soldiers under his command. Now he had 6. The humans had not just defeated them in battle. They had made them question everything they believed about warfare. Back at the river, Kyleros was having the same realization. The humans had offered him multiple chances to surrender with honor. They had shown mercy when they could have shown death. They had treated captured aliens with kindness instead of cruelty. We are not your enemies, Jake called across the water. We never wanted to be your enemies. But we will not let you destroy what we have built here. As night fell on the second day, the surviving Zephyrian soldiers found themselves in an impossible situation. They were outnumbered, outfought, and completely outmaneuvered by an enemy that should have been easy to defeat. But more than that, they were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not primitives to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were people fighting for everything they loved, and that made them capable of impossible things. By the third day, Commander Zelter had only 30 soldiers left from his original force of 120. They had taken shelter in the ruins of the colony's main processing plant. The humans surrounded them, but seemed content to wait them out. Zelter stared at his tactical display, trying to understand what had gone wrong. His forces were trapped with little food and water. Their communication with the main fleet was cut off. Worse, the humans had shown they could end this siege anytime they wanted. "Sir, our supplies will not last another day," Lieutenant Vexka reported. His armor was damaged, and one arm hung useless at his side. "We need to try to break out." Zelter nodded, but he knew any breakout attempt would be suicide. The humans had anticipated every move they made. It was as if the humans could read their minds and prepare for their actions before they made them. Outside the alien position, Jake Murphy sat in the colony's emergency command center. The basement of the community building had been turned into their war room. The past 3 days had cost them 8 people killed and 15 wounded, but they had the aliens contained. The colonists had proven that humans could fight as well as any species in the galaxy. But now they faced a different kind of challenge. Jake looked at the faces around him and saw the strain of battle wearing on everyone. "Jake, we have a problem," Dr. Lisa Carter said, looking up from her medical scanner. "Carol Henderson is having her baby, and there are complications." Jake felt his heart sink. Carol and her husband Dan had been among the first families to join the colony. Their baby would be the first human child born on this world, if everything went well. "What do you need?" Jake asked. "I need to get Carol to the medical center." Lisa explained. "The baby is not positioned right, and Carol is losing blood. But the medical center is right in the line of fire between us and the aliens." Dan Henderson stood nearby, his face pale with worry. He had been one of their best fighters, but now his wife needed him more than the war did. His hands shook as he thought about losing Carol and their unborn child. Jake looked at the tactical map. The medical center was in the worst possible location. To reach it safely, they would need the aliens to stop shooting for several hours. But asking for a ceasefire in the middle of a battle seemed impossible. Then, Jake made a decision that would later become famous across the galaxy. He activated the General Communication Channel and broadcast on all frequencies. "Attention Zephyrian forces. This is Jake Murphy, Colonial Defense Leader. We have a medical emergency. I am requesting a temporary ceasefire." In the alien bunker, Zelter stared at his communication console in shock. "They want a ceasefire? In the middle of a battle?" "It must be a trick, sir," Vexka suggested, though he did not sound convinced. "No," Zelter said slowly. "If they wanted to trick us, they would not announce it openly." He activated his transmitter. "Human Commander, this is Strike Leader Zelter. What are your terms?" "No terms," Jake's voice came back clearly. "We have a woman having a baby with serious problems. Our doctor needs to get her to the medical center. After that is done, we go back to fighting." The communication channel fell silent for long minutes. Every human and alien on the battlefield waited to hear what would happen next. Zelter had fought in dozens of wars across the galaxy. He had seen every trick and strategy that civilized species used. But he had never encountered anything like this. The humans were asking to pause a life-or-death battle to save a life. "Sir?" Vexka asked quietly. "What are your orders?" Zelter thought about his military training. Zephyrian doctrine said never to show mercy to an enemy. Never give them an advantage. Fight until victory or death. But something about this request made him pause. The humans could have tried to trick them or force them. Instead, they had simply asked. They had been honest about their need. "Ceasefire accepted," Zelter finally said. 6 hours. What happened next would be talked about in military schools across the galaxy for generations. Both sides stopped fighting and watched as Dr. Lisa Carter and Dan Henderson helped Carol across the battle-torn colony grounds. Carol was in great pain, but she walked as steadily as she could. Dan supported her on one side while Lisa carried her medical equipment. The journey to the medical center took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Zephyrian soldiers watched from their positions as the small group moved past. Some of the aliens had never seen human civilians before. They had expected to find warriors and conquerors. Instead, they saw ordinary people protecting one of their own. In the medical center, Lisa worked quickly to save both mother and child. The baby was not positioned correctly for birth, and Carol had lost a dangerous amount of blood. Without proper medical care, both would die. Dan held his wife's hand and spoke softly to her. "You can do this, Carol. Our daughter needs you too. Be strong." 3 hours after the ceasefire began, baby Emma Henderson was born. Her first cry was loud and healthy, echoing across the silent battlefield. Both human and alien fighters heard that sound, the sound of new life beginning in the middle of a war. The Zephyrian soldiers listened to the baby's cries with growing confusion. They had come to this world to conquer and destroy. But the humans had stopped their war to create life. This made no sense according to everything they had been taught about warfare. "Sir," Vexka said quietly to his commander, "why did we agree to this ceasefire?" Zelter did not answer immediately. He was trying to understand something that challenged everything he believed about military strategy. The humans had just shown them something that was more powerful than any weapon. When the 6-hour ceasefire ended, both sides returned to their positions. But something had changed. The Zephyrian soldiers found themselves facing an enemy that had just demonstrated something incredible. The humans had been willing to pause a battle for their very survival to save one life. This was not the behavior of primitive savages. This was something else entirely. Zelter realized that his intelligence reports had been completely wrong. These humans were not weak. They were not primitive. They were something far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. They were people who valued life more than victory. People who would stop fighting to protect the innocent. People who saw every individual as worth saving. And that made them capable of things that no military manual in the galaxy had ever described. The 4th day brought desperation to the surviving Zephyrian forces. Commander Zelter knew his soldiers could not last much longer. They had little food, less water, and no hope of rescue. The humans had them completely surrounded. At dawn, Zelter made the decision to attempt one final breakout. His 28 remaining soldiers would try to fight their way to the landing zone where their ships waited. It was almost certainly suicide, but Zephyrian military code demanded they try. "Today, we fight our way home or die trying," Zelter told his troops. "Remember your training. Remember your honor. Do not let these humans see fear." But fear was exactly what the Zephyrians felt as they prepared for their desperate assault. 3 days of fighting had taught them that these humans were unlike any enemy they had ever faced. The breakout began at sunrise. Zephyrian soldiers charged from their fortified position, using their remaining heavy weapons to blast through the human defensive line. For a moment, it looked like they might succeed. Then the humans showed them something that would haunt the survivors forever. Every escape route the aliens tried had been anticipated. Every tactical move they made had been prepared for. The humans seemed to know what the Zephyrians would do before they did it. Amy Foster had studied Zephyrian military doctrine for 3 days. She understood how their minds worked, how they approached battle, how they would react to different situations. She had briefed the other defenders on what to expect. "They are hierarchical fighters," she had explained. "They follow their leaders and stick to proven tactics. If we can predict their moves, we can counter them." The humans were fighting a battle of minds as much as weapons. They used psychology and strategy that the aliens had never encountered. Lieutenant. Vexka found himself separated from his unit, hiding behind a crashed transport vehicle. Around him, the sounds of battle raged. His soldiers were dying one by one, and there seemed to be no way out. Lieutenant Vexka, a calm voice called from nearby. This is Rick Palmer. I have you in my sights, but I am not shooting. Vexka looked around wildly, trying to spot the human. Show yourself, coward. I am not hiding, Rick replied. I am standing in the open, 20 meters to your left. Look. Vexka turned and saw a human soldier standing calmly in plain sight. The man held a rifle, but it was pointed at the ground. He made no move to take cover or attack. Why are you not shooting? Vexka demanded. Because I do not want to, Rick said simply. You are a good soldier, Lieutenant. You have kept your men together and made smart decisions. You showed honor when you accepted our ceasefire yesterday. Zephyrian warriors do not surrender, Vexka replied, though his voice lacked conviction. I am not asking you to surrender. Rick said, I am asking you to save your soldiers' lives. There is a difference between surrender and choosing not to die for nothing. The conversation that followed would be recorded and studied by military historians across the galaxy. Two professional soldiers, enemies by circumstance, finding common ground in their shared understanding of duty and honor. Rick explained that the humans respected brave enemies. They had no desire to kill soldiers who were only following orders. But they would not allow their home to be destroyed, no matter what the cost. Your mission has failed, Rick said gently. Everyone knows this. Even your commander knows this. The question now is whether you want to die for a lost cause or live to serve your people another day. Vexka listened and began to understand something that challenged everything he had been taught. These humans were offering him something no enemy had ever offered before, respect and mercy combined. Around the battlefield, similar conversations were taking place. Human defenders were talking to trapped alien soldiers, explaining why they did not need to die today. It was psychological warfare of a type the Zephyrians had never experienced. Commander, Zelter found himself face to face with Jake Murphy in the ruins of the communications building. Both men held weapons, but neither was shooting. You fought. Well, Jake said. You kept your soldiers together when everything went wrong. That takes real leadership. We came to destroy your colony, Zelter replied. Why do you speak of respect? Because you are a soldier doing his duty, Jake answered. I can hate your mission and still respect your courage. You could have run away when things got bad. Instead, you stayed with your men. Jake paused, looking at the alien commander with genuine sympathy. But this fight is over. Your soldiers are dying for nothing now. Is that what honor really means? Zelter stared at this human who had defeated his elite forces with farmers and teachers. Everything he had been taught said that primitives were cruel and savage. But these humans showed more honor than many civilized species he had fought. What do you want from me? Zelter asked. I want you to stop the killing, Jake said. Your men are brave, but bravery without purpose is just waste. Save the ones you can save. The breakthrough came when young Private Zekno could no longer watch his comrades die. The scared soldier stood up from behind his cover, removed his helmet, and called out in broken English, I surrender. We surrender. Please stop the killing. One by one, other Zephyrian soldiers followed his example. Warriors who had never known defeat laid down their weapons to an enemy that had shown them mercy was not weakness. Commander Zelter was the last to surrender. He stood slowly, his weapon falling from his hands. I yield, he said in a voice that carried across the battlefield. My soldiers yield. The fighting stopped. 23 of the galaxy's most elite warriors had been defeated by a handful of colonists. But more than that, they had been shown a way of fighting that they never knew existed. The humans did not celebrate their victory. Instead, they immediately began caring for the wounded aliens. Dr. Lisa Carter worked alongside human medics to save Zephyrian lives. As the sun set on the fourth day, the impossible had happened. An alien invasion had been defeated, not just by superior tactics, but by superior values. The humans had proven that mercy could be a weapon more powerful than any technology. And in the captured aliens' minds, a new understanding began to form. These humans were not primitive. They were not weak. They were the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known, precisely because they chose not to be cruel when they had every reason to be. Lieutenant Vexka stood alone on the bridge of the small Zephyrian transport ship. He was the only survivor chosen to carry the message back to the Empire. The weight of that responsibility felt heavier than his damaged armor. The humans had treated their prisoners with kindness that still amazed him. Dr. Lisa Carter had repaired his injured arm. The colonists had shared their food and even provided entertainment during the brief time the aliens spent in captivity. Commander Zelter had died as he lived, with honor. But his final words to Vexka would echo forever. Tell them what we learned? Here, tell them why these humans must never be underestimated again. The communication array came to life as Vexka opened a channel to Zephyrian High Command. The face of Admiral Sekther appeared on his screen, stern and expecting news of victory. Report, Lieutenant. The human colony has been taken, I assume? Vexka straightened despite his pain. Sir, I must report that Operation Swift Strike has failed completely. Commander Zelter and 119 soldiers are dead or missing. The silence that followed seemed to stretch across the vast distance between stars. Admiral Sekther's face showed complete shock. How is this possible? The Admiral finally asked. Our intelligence said they were primitives with basic weapons. Sir, with respect, our intelligence was completely wrong, Vexka replied. The humans are not primitives. They are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Explain yourself, Lieutenant. Vexka took a deep breath. He knew his next words would change everything the Empire believed about humanity. Admiral, the humans do not fight like us. They do not fight like anyone. They turn their entire world into a weapon. They know what we will do before we do it. They use tactics that make no sense, but somehow always work. Vexka paused, remembering the battle that had cost so many lives. But that is not what makes them truly dangerous, sir. Continue. They stopped fighting in the middle of battle to deliver a baby, Vexka said. A woman was having a child with complications. The humans called for a ceasefire, and when we agreed, they took her to safety. Then they went back to fighting. Admiral Sekther's expression showed complete confusion. That makes no tactical sense. That is exactly why they are so dangerous. Vexka explained, they do not fight to win battles. They fight to protect what they love. This makes them capable of impossible things. The report that Vexka filed that day would be classified at the highest levels. Every major military power in the galaxy would eventually read it. But it was the final section that would be quoted in strategic planning meetings for decades to come. The humans are not the strongest, fastest, or most advanced species in the galaxy, Vexka wrote. But they may be the most dangerous because they are willing to sacrifice everything for each other. He continued, they showed mercy when they could have killed. They treated prisoners with kindness when they had every reason for revenge. They respected brave enemies even while defeating them completely. This is not weakness. This is a strength we do not understand. Any species that underestimates them does so at their own peril. Back on Kepler 442b, Jake Murphy was helping to rebuild the colony. The battle had damaged many buildings, but the spirit of the community was stronger than ever. Little Emma Henderson was now 1 week old, taking her first breaths in the alien soil that had become humanity's newest home. Jake did not know that his small defensive action had changed the course of galactic history. He was too busy planning the next harvest and making sure the colony's defenses were ready for any future threats. Dr. Lisa Carter was treating the last of the wounded colonists. 8 people had died in the fighting, and their loss was deeply felt by everyone. But 23 families were still alive because of their sacrifice. Amy Foster had returned to teaching the colony's children. But now her lessons included basic military tactics and emergency procedures. The colonists had learned that their peaceful new world could become dangerous without warning. The report from Lieutenant Vexka spread through the galactic military community like wildfire. Within months, every major species was reassessing their opinion of humanity. The Zephyrian Empire was the first to act. They issued a formal non-aggression pact with Earth, stating that human colonies would be considered neutral territory. Other species quickly followed. The Corvin Federation, known for their aggressive expansion, quietly canceled plans to claim several systems near human space. The Hive Collective updated their diplomatic protocols to treat humans as a significant threat species. But the changes went deeper than just military policy. The story of the ceasefire for baby Emma's birth became legend. The image of warriors stopping a battle to protect new life touched something in many alien cultures. Philosophers and military theorists across the galaxy began studying human psychology. They wanted to understand how a species could be both so compassionate and so dangerous. The answers they found were disturbing to many established powers. Humans fought hardest when they were protecting others. They showed mercy to defeated enemies. They valued individual lives over strategic advantages. These traits made humans unpredictable in ways that advanced computer models could not account for. How do you fight an enemy that might stop shooting to save your wounded soldiers? Within 5 years, most major galactic powers had signed treaties with Earth, not because they feared human weapons or technology, but because they feared human unpredictability. The doctrine that emerged from this became known as the Henderson Principle, named after the baby whose birth had stopped a war. It stated that humans should never be engaged in direct conflict unless absolutely necessary, because they fought for reasons that other species could not understand or counter. Trade agreements followed the military treaties. Human colonies became neutral meeting grounds where different species could negotiate safely. The same compassion that made humans dangerous in war made them valuable as mediators in peace. Jake Murphy lived to see his small colony grow into a major diplomatic center. Ships from dozens of species regularly visited Kepler 442b, bringing trade and cultural exchange. Emma Henderson grew up speaking 7 languages and learning about dozens of alien cultures. She would eventually become Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, carrying forward the legacy that began with her birth cry echoing across a battlefield. The legend grew with each telling. Details were added and changed, but the core truth remained. A handful of farmers and teachers had taught the galaxy's greatest warriors that there were things worth fighting for that were more powerful than any weapon. And sometimes, the greatest. Victory was not in defeating your enemy, but in making them understand why you could never be defeated. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, not for their cruelty, but for their capacity to show mercy while demonstrating absolute determination to protect what they loved.